Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Tarika Fuller, and welcome to our very first um, celebration of Nurse Practitioners Week. We have a live session tonight that we are very honored to have Dr. Danielle McCamey with us to speak in regards to leveraging the power and impact of DNP prepared leadership. And it is with great honor that I have the opportunity to introduce Dr. McCamey on tonight. Dr. McCamey is a mentor, nurse, motivator, expert, critical care advanced practice clinician. She has over 20 years of nursing experience and over a decade as an acute nurse practitioner. Her specialties range from peri-anesthesia care, palliative, and critical care. Dr. McCamey grew up in a single parent family home in Northern Virginia. Inspired by her mother, she became a nurse and received her Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from the University of Virginia. She started her nursing career at Georgetown University Hospital in the PACU and medical ICU. Shortly afterwards, she obtained her Master of Science from Georgetown University, specializing in acute care advanced practice. She then received a doctorate in nursing practice from Georgetown University, where her dissertation focused on integration of palliative care screening of neurosurgical patients on admission. In her current role as the Assistant Dean of Strategic Partnerships at the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing, Danielle is at the forefront of driving meaningful collaboration and alliances. Her strategic acumen and visionary leadership has played a pivotal role in shaping the school's approach to fostering inclusivity and diversity. She was formerly the Chief Advanced Practice Provider of the Para-Anesthesia Testing Department and still works as a Senior Advanced Practice Provider in the Surgical Intensive Care Unit. In addition, she is the co-creator and chair of the Doctoral Nurses Collaborative, a group that joins DNP and PhD prepared nurses throughout her current healthcare system. The Doctoral Nurses Collaborative provides mentorship, scholarship, and elevation of evidence-based practice. Dr. McCamey was inducted as a fellow in the American College of Chest Physicians back in 2019 and served as the chair of the Palliative and End-of-Life Care Network, where she focuses on education, raising awareness of palliative and end-of-life care in chest and clinical practice. Her scholarly pursuits and fervent dedication are centered around propelling diversity and development within the nursing workforce. A visionary in her field, Danielle is reshaping the landscape of nursing through her groundbreaking nonprofit, DNPs of Color, which she founded and serves as the CEO and president. Through this initiative, she created a thriving community, provides networking, mentorship, advocacy for nurses of color pursuing and holding doctorate degrees, catalyzing a surge of representation within the nursing profession. In her spare time, where she finds that, we don't know. In her spare time, she enjoys time with her family, dancing, playing the bass guitar, traveling, and long rides on her motorcycle. And what some of you may not know, and I was mentioning this to her, when I was able to obtain my offers to come to Frontier Nursing University, Dr. McCamey was the first person I contacted. So I thank her for encouraging me to join Frontier, and I thank her for being here on tonight. So the next voice you'll hear is that of Dr. McCamey.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fuller, for that amazing introduction. And thank you for sharing our story, one of many stories of us connecting, collaborating, mentoring each other. So just a small also example of leveraging the power and impact of being DNP prepared and supporting each other in this space. So thank you all. Happy Nurse Practitioner Week to everyone watching. It's just such an honor to share this time with you all. And I'm so grateful for Frontier Nursing University for the invitation to share some of my experiences around leveraging the DNP degree to create an impact. And for me tonight, it'll be just sharing that impact from the lens of my experiences with creating my nonprofit DNPs of Color. So inviting you all to just indulge me in listening to Mission Driven and Legacy Building, leveraging the power and impact of DNP Prepared leadership. And so I have two hats. And so please feel free to scan the QR code and get in contact with me. I love connecting with folks and helping them along their way any way that I can be of service. So our objectives, my hope tonight is that we get an opportunity to discuss leadership and wellness, because those are incredibly important. Explore how to lead change, and then discuss the impact of DNP prepared leadership and what does that look like. And the exemplar I'll be utilizing tonight is that of the nonprofit DNPs of Color. But first, a lot of this work in being able to be influential and impactful, you have to pour from a full cup. And because we are in a profession where we're constantly pouring out of our cup, it's important that we find time to fill it. And so in order to be effective in your leadership, wellness has to be at the center, and at the center, it has to be you. So I want to invite you to one of my happy places, which is the beach. And so I'm finding more value in doing more mindfulness things, even just for a moment. So I'm just going to invite us to take a trip together on this wonderful beach. And I'm going to give you some prompts so that we can have this opportunity to be grounded together before we get into the talk tonight. Take a moment to take a nice, full, deep breath. Close your eyes and get comfortable, whether sitting or lying, whichever one is best for you at this moment. Relax your body and release any areas of tension that you notice. Allowing your arms to relax, and then your legs. Remembering your breath, taking a deep breath in, and deep breath out. Relax your neck and your back, relaxing your spine, just releasing all the tension from the day. The muscles from the base of your head, along each vertebrae. Breathing deeply in through your nose. Exhaling out through your mouth. Allowing yourself to just relax in this moment, listening to the sounds of the ocean. Or if your eyes are still open, just watching the gentle waves run up on the shore. Getting lost in the tranquility of this moment, the sounds, and the visualizations of the ocean. Continue to take deep breaths and become more relaxed with each breath. Feel a wave of relaxation flow over you. From the top of your head to the soles of your feet. Take a moment to visualize yourself here on the beach. You may be walking slowly, taking one step in front of another, getting closer and closer to the water, noting the brilliant aqua color of the ocean, the warmthness of the sand. You take a moment to pause and enjoy the beauty and majesty of the waves crashing against the shore. You smell the clean salt water in the air, breathing in and exhaling, continuing to be present in this moment on the beach, feeling calm and relaxed. Enjoying this moment of solitude, you feel peaceful and relaxed, allowing the stress of the day to finally melt away. Breathing in and exhaling. Allowing yourself to be free of worries, acknowledging the thoughts that are just passing through, but not hanging on to them. No stress, just calm in this moment. Breathing in, breathing out. Great. Now call yourself back to your usual level of alertness. Begin to breathe in, exhale, opening up your eyes if your eyes are closed, if your eyes are open. Settle back into the attention of this moment. Becoming fully alert and engaged together. And you can end with a stretch here. And welcome back to reality. Thank you for sharing that moment with me. And that was just 3 minutes of being together, focusing on a relaxing moment and my favorite place. So whenever I get the opportunity to speak, I love sharing my story because I feel like my hope is that it inspires you, but also sets the grounding and the foundation of my leadership, the lens in which I lead, and then also just giving honor to my family and how they've been able to support me and pour into me. So I grew up in a single parent family household. This is a picture of my family here. My mom's here in the middle, my older sister, myself, and my nieces. And when I think about the key moments in my life that really changed the trajectory, one particular incident comes to mind, and it was during my high school experience. I was always a super focused, very goal-oriented student. My mom would always have to take books away from me because I was constantly in a book. She was like, girl, you need to get some sleep. I'm taking these books out your room. I'm taking your flashlight. But she didn't know that I literally cut a hole in my mattress and I hid my backup books and flashlights so that I can continue to read. So I was determined to be successful. I felt that it was on me to pave a way for myself and find ways to excel. And so I had my pathway lined up. I was going to go to this college and I was going to be this type of professional. And so I studied hard and got straight A's and tons of accolades. But there was one challenge that was so insurmountable, which was the SAT test. And I never got over 1,000. And that really defined some of my ways that I looked at myself and being successful. And so at that time, I sought to meet with my guidance counselor because she's the expert, right? And from my lived experience, I didn't have anyone that had gone to college. So I wasn't aware of what pathway to take or how to get there. And so meeting the guidance counselor, right, seemed like a good idea. So I met with her and she sat and listened to me share my hopes, goals, and aspirations for myself. And she sat back in her chair and said, you know what, Danielle, all that sounds great, but the statistics show that because you're Black and your mom barely makes over $40,000 a year, and you never scored over 1,000 on the SAT scores, and being a product of a single parent family household, the odds are just stacked against you. So my best advice for you is to let go of your college dreams and look forward to finding something else that doesn't require college education, because you won't be successful even if you did get in. So that literally took the wind out of my soul. And it took every piece of strength in that moment not to cry in front of her, because I could hear my mom in the background saying, girl, don't you ever cry in front of anybody. So I left, I thanked her for her time, and I went to the bathroom, and just the tears just poured. And at that moment, I said, you know what, maybe she's right. She's the guidance counselor. She knows all the facts. She knows the way. So I began to, at that moment, just cry out those tears and start thinking about an alternative plan. But I just knew that it just didn't sit right with me. But because of her status, I began to believe it. And so I made that appointment at the end of the day, because I didn't want to miss class to see the guidance counselor. And so afterwards, I had to go to track practice. And my track coach, he's a very, very stern. His last name is Coach Stearns. Very stern, and very loves to make sure that his athletes are focused in the moment during practice. So no tears and no whining was allowed on his track. So I leave out of the bathroom and head to track practice, because I was one of the co-leads, so I had to lead our practice drills. But I was so overcome with emotion, and I did everything in my power to try and hide it. But my coach, being a coach, very in tune to his athletes, called me over. He was like, McCamey, get over here. And I'm like, yes, coach. And it's taking everything in my being to not cry, because I know the rules: no crying, no whining. And my lips quivering, and I'm trying to hold it in. And he's like, what's up? And I just poured out. The tears just began to fall. And he really could see that I was very upset. And he was asking, what's going on? What's up, McCamey? So I recounted the story about the guidance counselor, and I could see him getting upset. But he kept it very focused, and he said, Danielle, don't you know those things that she said were odds stacked against you? You can utilize those for your benefit. Yes, so what? Your mom doesn't make over $40,000. Guess what? There's scholarships and grants that you can take advantage of. There's different programs that will support you and pay for your application fees. They'll give you waivers, all these resources. And he began just adding fuel to that fire that was starting to get dim. And so I'm looking at him, and I'm soaking it all up. And it's continuing to breathe that fire. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? And he's like, yes. So at that moment, I call that him pouring into me the keys to the game secrets that I had no idea about. But because he knew my potential, he knew my hopes and dreams, and he also knew the system and the structure, that he was able to share that with me and enlighten me with that power and knowledge. And so, long story short, I went on an application frenzy. I applied to 20 schools and got into all 20 schools with some sort of merit and scholarship financial aid. So I ended up waltzing into that guidance counselor's office with all the 20 letters, and I gave them to her, and I said, I believe these things belong to you. And she was shocked. She literally was clutching her pearls, and she just was in disbelief. She's like, I just can't believe this. And I said, well, believe it, because you have all the proof here. So I ended up going to the University of Virginia for my undergrad on scholarship, and then continued for the rest of my degrees also on scholarship, because I said, who am I to deny these institutions their right to pay for my education? And so that's my story. And for me, the gift from that was to not allow anyone to define your circumstances based on your current circumstances, because that's not going to always be your story. And to align yourself with folks that see your potential, see your value, and that are going to impart the keys and knowledge for you to continue to follow your mission, your passion, and fulfill your purpose. And so that's been like the undertones of my leadership and the way I show up in every day of my life, and with those that have the opportunity to connect with, is leading with finding their passion and tapping their potential. So my DNP experience, I had the opportunity to go on scholarship, but when I got there, I saw I was the only Black woman. This is a picture of my cohort at the time. And I had this hope that there will be other folks that look like me, but there wasn't. And so for me, it created an experience where I sometimes felt excluded or like I didn't belong. And that really, really weighed heavily on me, in which I tried to turn for strength and utilize, but sometimes it was difficult. And so as I journeyed on, I ended up graduating at, obviously, I'm Dr. McCamey now, but it gave me a lens that I feel like being DNP prepared really gives us a unique advantage, because we have the lens to speak from a practice standpoint, and we have the lens to speak to understanding institutional, organizational structures, policies, and procedures, and fuse those things together to really deepen our knowledge and understanding of the system, the structure, and how we practice, and really, really leverage that to our advantage to make an impact. And so with DNP, I call it DNP lifestyle because it definitely has changed my life from becoming just a hardcore clinician, acute care nurse practitioner. I still dabble in critical care today. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love it. I will never give it up. To evolving into a scholar, into having that process of deepening my knowledge in specifically palliative care and critical care really gave me the confidence. It expanded my insights and my scholarly abilities to cultivate my leadership, my mentorship, and then also being a speaker. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. And so really leveraging the confidence and knowledge that I learned and gained from my DNP education to be able to speak, and then ultimately become a CEO of a national nonprofit. And with DNP lifestyle became increased self-confidence. It opened up so many different doors to have different seats at different tables of influence, which is huge. And then also understanding that it's a journey, and that in that journey, there's evolution, there's lots of learning. Most importantly, you have to give back, and then it's a continuous cycle. But as you're developing your foundation and understanding of being a DNP leader, you have to build your tribe of mentors. And I always tell folks that mentorship is literally the keys to your success. You find people that you aspire to be or in spaces that you want to be, and you align yourself with them, whether you watch them virtually or you actually tap them in real life and say, I invite you to mentor me to be great because I see what you're doing, I see your impact, and I'm inspired. And so when you're building your tribe of mentors, that's literally helps sets the foundation for your DNP leadership. You have to choose them wisely. You want to align yourself with people that inspire you. And for me, I just recently realized that you can have more than one. So here are a couple of my my entourage, because they really serve different purposes and different phases of your life and also your career. And for me, I always recommend that you have 3 mentors. One is kind of like your mentor that understands your day-to-day, that understands your why and who you are as a person, and how your lived experiences are amplified in your daily life. The second mentor is one that is your strategic mentor that helps you come up with your professional strategy on how to advance. And then the third mentor is kind of like your pie in the sky, someone that you are like, man, if I can be them, I would feel like I would have arrived. It could be a celebrity person or someone that's really high ranking or high influential or impactful in your particular specialty or realm of influence. And then you want to soak up their knowledge. Experience, in my opinion, is always superior to the book. So make sure when you're having conversations with your mentors or you're watching them, you're taking notes and you're reflecting and you're applying what works for you. And then fostering a connection. The most valuable experiences with mentorship is when you have the ability to bounce back and forth. Sometimes I find myself mentoring my mentors, but most of the time they're mentoring me. Transactional mentorship is not as fruitful. And so I definitely want to encourage you to make sure that you're looking to fostering connections with your mentors. And then just pausing for a moment, that when you realize you have more letters after your name and that you've kind of transitioned further away from actual nursing practice, practicing at the bedside. But that's when you know it's time to transition to being a leader. And so being a leader, you're destined to be part of leading change. And I love this quote by Steve Jobs, that the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And so when you're leading change, you have to find out what's the problem. And for me, when I think back on my story from that high school point of view to my doctoral studies point of being the only one, or not necessarily being afforded the resources up front that I had available to me, as I dug into the data, because, you know, DNP, we have to look at the data, I started to see that me being the only one is a global thing. And I knew it was, but to see it outlined here in the data really drove it home. And so this data set is from the Campaign for Action. And you can see the disparity in the numbers in terms of race and ethnicity of the 2019 Doctor of Nursing Practice graduates. So I continued to dig more and found more data. And this just shows an outline of the DNP to PhD prepared nurses broken down by race and ethnicity. And as you can see, the numbers are staggering, where white DNP prepared nurses are over 20,000. And since I identify as a Black woman, 5,000 Black individuals in this space. So I'm like, okay, there's a problem here. There's a gap I'm identifying. And then just looking at the degree alone, again, from Campaign for Action, looking at over the past decade, over 40,000 DNP prepared nurses are currently in practice to 7,000 PhDs. And so for me, I'm like, okay, this is really a problem, not only race, ethnic wise, but also just degree wise. You see the differences, but then also realizing this is creating an opportunity. I'm like, yeah, there's a gap, but this affords me an opportunity to be able to find a way to be impactful in closing this gap. And then continuing to read more literature that we all know representation matters. Having a diverse workforce really impacts patient outcomes, leadership, education, everyone's overall experience, and then also understanding the power of inclusion and belonging. I know that that's perceivably buzzwords for the times that we're in right now, but it's truly beneficial that when we include those that have been the most marginalized, and when we think about those considerations and we include those, then everybody benefits. And then just the moving target of when everyone in nursing should have a doctoral degree, this one specifically DNP by 2025, it's constantly moving as to when we want to transition to that fully as a profession. But then also understanding the social and political environment that we're in, and then also the underscoring of how racism has permeated every inch and fabric of healthcare. And then understanding that because of that, those layers, it really highlights the urgency to increase diversity in the healthcare workforce. And as we saw, even though the numbers were low according to race ethnicity, more and more nurses of color are going back to pursue their doctorates. And because of the mandate to push toward more DNP prepared nurses, and more institutions are transitioning to DNP entry-level programs, the growth is becoming more apparent and more exponential. And so for me, it really created an opportunity to create an organization like DNPs of Color as the premier organization that focuses on nurses of color that are in pursuit or already have their DNP degree. So it validated this organization and the need for it. So as a leader, I'm thinking, okay, we've got some data, we've got some validation. Now let's see what else we can move forward to kind of create this into a thing. And so just pausing just to share some of the leadership keys that I found for my success. And I'm giving you some of these keys, which is totally how I have managed to be successful. And the first key is being authentic. one of the things as I continue to evolve in as a professional, as a scholar, as a leader, a mentor, clinician, all the hats that I wear, the value that I found and the greatest way I've been able to make an impact is to be myself. My bubbly, unapologetically funny, fun, vibrant, charismatic self has literally allowed me to bond with so many different people and afforded me so many different opportunities. People want to know who they're dealing with. So being your authentic self is so much easier. You have a increased ability to connect with so many different people when you're authentic. Transparent. People want to know what they're dealing with. People want to know how you operate. They want to be clear on your intentions. And so for me, communicating what my intentions are, communicating what the goals are, what the mission is, how that foundation is in place, and being transparent, people really love that. And you really create a lot of value and be able to be influential. And then accountability. People want to know that you're authentic. They want to know that you're transparent, but they also want to know that you're going to follow up, and that your word is solid, and that you're going to do what you set out to do. So these are the three keys that have unlocked so many different doors and opportunities and amazing connections. And so I invite you to also adopt, if you don't have this as part of your ways that you formulate your own particular impact to leverage for your leadership. And then once you kind of get an understanding of the keys, your story, yourself, how you've arrived, how the underlying messaging and threads of things that have created this pathway that's not going to be linear, how that formulates into you being able to find out what your alignment is. And your alignment is rooted in your ability to remember your why.
I think that what happens with communities of color, and I can speak to my experience, you have the talent, you have the intelligence, but we just don't necessarily have the community, the network. We just need an opportunity. Once we get someone to basically sponsor us or provide us an opportunity, we take hold of it and we just go. I want it to be a place where we become the voice that elevates nurses of color that have their doctorates, and the significance that carries is huge. When patients see providers that they can identify with that look like them, they're more likely to have increased trust. They're more likely to adhere to their patient treatment plans. They're more likely to be motivated to take care of themselves.
Your remembering your why really fuels your fire to continue on, because there are going to be obstacles, there are going to be things that you'll have to face and grow through and go through. And so for me, keeping my why at the center, which this is a snapshot of some of the graduates that we've celebrated. This was the 2021 class, but we've continued to celebrate up to this point. And understanding there's a community that you're leading that's leaning on you wherever you show up in your respective leadership space. So when you're aligned, you're resolute in who you are, you're grounded, you're mindful, you understand your story, you start getting clear as to what your passions are, and you start being able to make that passion part of your solution. And for me, part of my passion, part of my solution and contributions to nursing, workforce development, and diversity is DNPs of color. And so as you're aligning and building, you start creating, and building communities is one of the gifts that you have the opportunity to be able to leverage being a DNP-prepared leader. So for me, I utilized making this organization into a nonprofit, which sounded absolutely amazing. And so a nonprofit, when I began my journey to figure out what does that look like, we are literally a part of a huge network that's creating the social common good, that we have these shared beliefs and hopes that we put a lot of things into action. We are part of the noblest causes, that we are responsible for feeding, healing, sheltering, educating, inspiring, enlightening, and nurturing so many different communities from different intersections of life from age, gender, race, socioeconomic status, coast to coast, border to border, and beyond. All that to say is nonprofit life, we are the leaders in doing the most social good, but we also are the ones that don't get a profit and are always in need of financial support. But some way we make a way to be able to push our missions and leverage that impact. And so the nonprofit realities, I'm a clinician. I'm like, I know how to save a life. I'm a critical care clinician, preferably prefer folks that are in the ICU, intubated and sedated. But being a nonprofit leader, there's lots of things to consider. How to govern, how to find money, because no money, no mission. How to keep people engaged. People want to know what's in it for them. How can you continuously create value and sustainability? And then your impact. How are you really leading from your mission? How are you centering that? And what are your measures and your metrics to really drive home your impact so that people that are not in that industry understand the value that you're contributing and how you're saving society to fill the mission that you put forth. And what I found out, the realities of being a nonprofit CEO, there's lots of ups, there's lots of downs, and somehow it all kind of evens out and you continue to push on because you see the impact that you're making and the ability to inspire and empower others to help close some of the gaps. And so with our mission at DNPs of Color, we're focused on building a community to serve doctors of nursing practice of color through networking, mentorship, and advocacy to increase diversity in doctoral studies, clinical practice, and leadership. And that was a mouthful, but the main things that are our pillars are networking, because your net worth is directly linked to your ability to network. Mentorship, as I mentioned earlier, mentorship is literally the keys to your success in any endeavor that you are pursuing. And then advocacy, the ability to advocate, amplify, and speak up for a community and their needs, and also not only their needs, but their contributions and their triumphs and how they're able to make an impact in the community. And then our ultimate vision is to transform the landscape of nursing so that it's completely diverse, especially in doctoral nursing practice. And our goals are to create opportunities for those in academia, research, and clinical practice, continuing to advocate for educational support, and then serve as mentors and guide nurses of color to pursue their doctorate in nursing practice. But leadership and building dynamic organizations can be very difficult, but it evens out by also being extremely rewarding and leveraging the DNP experiences, the DNP knowledge to lead has definitely contributed significantly to the success and sustainability to DNPs of color. So once you've kind of sat with yourself, you've reflected, you've owned your story, you've owned your power, you've owned your purpose, you've aligned with a mission, vision, and goals, you start mobilizing the people because you can't do this work by yourself. And it's amazing once you become aligned and you're clear and resolute about your goals and your mission, people will come up out the woodwork. If you build it, they will come and people will be inspired. They'll share the story and they'll bring more people with them. So, which is absolutely amazing. But you also have to choose the right people. A lot of people may come and they may not have the best intentions, but for the most part, folks come and they add value. And it may be ebbs and flows, it may be varying in intensity, but they still offer ways to contribute. And so being a leader and leveraging that power, you're also looking into people's potential and you're also finding them to align what their personal missions are to ensure it's also in alignment with the organization's mission. Always got to have diversity in the room. Who's in the room, who's not in the room. And so we leverage our advisory committee to bring in folks from different industries, from different backgrounds, different geographical locations, and beyond. And our team, small but mighty, and continuing to build. We have a pretty decent sized board of directors. As I mentioned, our advisory committee, and we have our subcommittees, which really push our mission. And then we have a large community of over 2,000 individuals that has grown organically over the past 3 years since we've been operational. And some of our impact is grounded in our ability to highlight the accomplishments of our community through our virtual graduations. We also host an annual conference that has been very powerful, and we're in our 3rd year of that. And then we're hosting a whole programming around our mission pillars of networking, mentorship, and advocacy. So recapping, putting it all together on how you're leveraging your power, your purpose, and creating this mission, that you box it in, your passion becomes part of the solution. And for me, increasing diversity in nursing practice and providing that community for this particular community of nurses started building that foundation for that passion. And as you're building, you're laying the foundation that's aligned with your mission, vision, and goals, and you're creating the people that are going to help lead it, expand it, and sustain it. And then also making sure part of your foundation, you're keeping at the center your why. And that sometimes is a daily reminder, why am I doing this? And then navigating the paperwork and politics. We live in a world where there's always going to be paperwork and politics. So ensuring that those structures are in place and that you're in alignment so that you can continue to do the good work. Creating opportunities. This is my favorite part of leveraging being a leader and then having that knowledge skill set of having a doctorate in nursing practice, to be able to have that mind, as I mentioned earlier, about clinical practice and understanding the ever-changing landscape in nursing practice, but then also having the other mind of understanding the policies and procedures and how to leverage that knowledge, those organizational assessments, those theoretical frameworks, those abilities to have those strategic conversations and assessing who are the key interested parties that can either make or break an initiative. Start creating these opportunities to really have that impact. And that's what we're all about here, is impact, right? And for DNPs of color, our impact areas are doctoral studies, clinical practice, leadership, anti-racism, and DEI. And so we formulated different programming around those impact areas. And so our tagline is inspiring nurses, empowering professionals, and transforming nursing practice. And those uphold some of our goal pillars, where we create programming that are around mentorship and pathway programs with collaborations of other nonprofit organizations. We look to empower professionals by upskilling or reskilling those on key topics that are important to this particular community. And then transforming nursing practice, finding ways to amplify the voice in whether it be media, policies, just the community alone helps transform nursing practice, because it creates this belonging and inclusion space where people can essentially get their cup filled and go back to those places and spaces where they might be the only one. And again, our tagline, inspiring nurses, empowering professionals, and transforming nursing practice. And so continuing our impact, we just opened up for membership. And so when you have membership, you have a body of folks that are in alignment with your mission, vision, and goals. And when you create a platform to elevate and amplify their voices, it creates such a strong message within our profession as nurses and just the professional space alone. And so because, as I mentioned earlier, there is a gap in nursing for this group of professionals, nurses of color, who are rapidly going back to get their doctorate, which nursing has created this structure to invite more nurses to go back to get their doctorate, specifically DNP, and then having an organization that has identified that problem in the disparities of those going back to get the degree, and has created an opportunity of pooling everyone to expand their network, to create opportunities for mentorship, and to also leverage the platform for advocacy to amplify the issues, the concerns, but also the solutions that are found within this group of professionals. And so, mission driven. What is your mission in life? And if you don't know, I encourage you to reflect on it. And reflection starts off with hanging out at the beach, pulling up a YouTube video and sitting in a moment of just being open to receive, not allowing any external distractions to interfere with the opportunity to just sit and think about where your passion is. What keeps you up at night? What inspires you? Was there anything that happened growing up where you felt like you didn't want someone else to experience that, or you wanted someone to experience it because it was a positive experience? Who are you engaging with to have these conversations, to really just have this opportunity to brainstorm of the buckets of things that you like, and maybe you need to have that external dialogue or journaling to explore what your mission is, because we're all here to accomplish something. And no mission is greater over another, because at the end of the day, we all need each other and we all contribute value and we all have a seat at this table of life. And so those are some pieces to really hone in on what your mission is. And then, how are you building your legacy? One of my mentors, I asked her one day, I said, Dean Wade, what is your legacy that you hope to leave? And she was like, I don't hope to leave a legacy. She's like, my hope every day is that I'm living my legacy now, so that I'm understanding the impact and continuing to find ways to be impactful as part of my legacy today. And that just really resonated with me. And so whenever I have talks, I always impart a call to action for people to really find your mission and to really start thinking about the legacy that you're living and the legacy that you will leave. And so this is a picture of myself and my great niece. She is a little bit older from this picture, but I did my doctoral graduation photo shoot with her. And this moment was just so precious for me to have the opportunity for her to share in that moment and see her auntie, become a doctor of nursing practice. And then for me to essentially pass the torch, like, okay, kid, I have paved the way to make it somewhat easier for you. Now you take this torch and you go even further. And so that is what I have before you. I hope that there was some opportunity for you to be inspired. If you have questions, please scan my QR code that takes you to my link tree, to my email, to my calendar. And then before I officially close out, I do want to introduce this young lady here featured. This is Miss Virginia Allen. She is one of a cohort of 300 nurses that was called from the Jim Crow South to take care of patients in Staten Island in the Seaview Sanatorium at the height of the tuberculosis pandemic back in the early 1900s. And they were called because the white nurses at that time that were taking care of these patients that had tuberculosis refused to care for them because of fear of risk of contracting tuberculosis themselves. So her name is Virginia Allen, and those nurses, Black nurses, came up to care for those folks for decades. And they became nicknamed or coined by the patients, the Black Angels. And so the Black Angels were instrumental in helping to find a cure for tuberculosis. So I have to give her a shout out because she's 92 years old. She is still living in Staten Island, actually within a stone's throw of the Seaview Sanatorium, where she served to care for patients that were that had tuberculosis. And so just wanted to share a piece of hidden history, because her story, and along with her colleagues who are all dead, she's the last living one, has gone almost erased. So you have learned a piece about Miss Virginia Allen. And so thank you for your time and attention. And I also want to close with this quote by Maya Angelou. You can only become truly accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing and then do them so well that people can't take their eyes off you. So I hope that's inspiring for you. That's my goal. Happy to connect. Please look me up on LinkedIn, Twitter, and we'll love the opportunity to share some time and space with you all. Thank you again, and happy Nurses Week. And thank you for your service and all that you do for the care of the communities and people we have the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. McCamey, for being with us on tonight and beginning our nursing week, Nurse Practitioner Week celebration. If I could just recap for 1 second in regards to the words that we obtained from you that we hope that we can carry on, is that you advised us to define our passion. What is our why? To remember our why as we are moving forward in our career. What is our mission and being mission driven? Also, we want to aspire nurses, and that is also advanced practice nurses. We want to empower the profession that we are currently in, that we get the torch to carry. And we also want to continue to transform nursing practice, and also be a legend, and also build a legacy. So we thank you so much for being with us all on tonight. We thank you all for being in attendance on tonight. And I thank you all for allowing me to facilitate this evening. And we will continue on, and please look at the link. There's more that's going to be happening on this week, but I think we have begun tonight with a bang. So thank you all.